Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
My name is Kathy Wade, your worship associate for today's service. Welcome to Heritage Universalist Unitarian Church. We are a community focused on nurturing the minds and the hearts of all types of people. This morning, we're invited to have a conversation about anything that's on our mind. In the church, in our world, the holidays, yes, even the Bengals. Those are Reverend Bill's words, by the way. We will enjoy our beloved Sunday morning traditions and rituals, of course, but otherwise our senior minister, Reverend Bill Gupton, reassures us that today's service will be rather informal and laid back. We are delighted to be celebrating with you, either in person in the sanctuary in the Great Hall or joining us via live stream. I offer a special welcome to any first-time visitors and invite you to sign our guest book in the lobby or through a link to the online guest book in chat if you are on Zoom. If you would like to know more about our community here at Heritage or how to get involved, I hope you'll reach out to our greeter from the Board of Trustees, who is Luke Walczewski in the rear there. And he would be happy to talk with you after the service. Also, after today's service, please join us for community time on Zoom or in the Great Hall, if you're in person, for a special treat, a potluck lunch. And don't worry if you didn't bring a dish to share, there is always plenty. And while you're there, you can also continue today's conversation. Please take a look at the two-sided sheet that includes today's order of service for important announcements, where you can choose from so many things: study groups, learning opportunities, ways of being of service in this community and beyond. Another invitation, those of you here in person, if you would please put your phones in airplane mode or turn off altogether to avoid interfering with our internet system. And then write yourself a note to turn your phone back on again after you leave. Whether virtually or here in the sanctuary, we are very glad that you've joined us this morning for conversation and celebration of community. And now we have some special announcements from Tracy Jo Duckworth, Dave Steffen, and Aaron Walczewski. Oh, one more announcement. This is shameless promotion of the 2023 Heritage Acres Memorial Sanctuary calendar, and they're available outside the sanctuary.
I'm Tracy Jo. Good morning. I wish I had a really fun announcement. It was really lighthearted, like the tree or my cute little outfit here. I'm here to talk to you about something very serious. In the back of the sanctuary, we have some emergency contact forms for you to fill out. And I've also brought my phone up here so that I could show you and tell you about how 2 times in 1 year, I ended up with cell phones of people from this church who had become ill. Of course, their phones were locked, and I had no way to unlock their phone. I could not open their phone to call their beloveds, to call their friend, call their family, to say, this person's in the hospital. And in one case, this person is critically ill and expected to die momentarily. So that's a really serious subject. It happened to me, and it's not about, oh, it happened to me. It's about how would you feel if this happened to you and your family didn't know, your family didn't have the opportunity perhaps to come and be with you. Now, both of those situations happened during COVID, so it was a moot point. Nobody could come and be with them. Reverend Bill, later on this week, will be sending out, there'll be an HEUC announce email that will tell you how you can set the emergency contacts on your phone so that anyone, specifically first responders, will be able to have access to your phone. Only to the emergency contacts. They wouldn't be able to see anything else in your phone. In the back of the room, emergency contact forms. And if you're on Zoom, how will they do that?
Ask, have one email with them.
If you're on Zoom, joining us virtually, either now or later, you will email the church office and somebody will email you a form and fill it out. The form is confidential. And that's really just one step. It's a multi-layered approach. So if I'm with you, if I'm out to lunch with you and I know, I know some of you and I know your kids and I know your wife and husband's names, but I might not have their phone number in my contact. Somebody would have to come here, go to the church and get that out. This is really one of the best scenarios. Having your emergency contacts set on your telephone. If you have any questions, if you have an iPhone, I can help you set that up. If you usually ask anyone under 20, they'll be able to help you set that up also. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Dave Steffen, and I know more and more of you all the time. I'm a college professor, a licensed therapist, and positive psychology researcher, and Bill asked me to fill in on a service on January 8th. So as a professor, educator, and therapist, I thought, why not do more than just speak on a Sunday morning? So I'm inviting folks to participate in a kind of an educational process leading up to January 8th to help you develop your own well-being projects. So the topic of the January 8th service is the science of well-being, which is part of my area of research. So I've provided some surveys and things to take as self-reflection, things you can go through leading up to January 8th on my website, which is in the fourth or fifth bullet point down. So if you want to participate, we're going to keep reminding you, and you can kind of do these things leading up to, and then you're going to create a 30-day well-being project that we kind of, you do individually, but we'll, for 5 weeks after the service, we'll do a Zoom meeting for those who want to, and just see how things are going. So I'm going to take you through that process leading up to January 8th and then follow it up after that. So that's, hope you can join us as part of that project. So, thanks.
Good morning. We are here for a celebration and thank you announcement. Last week, many of you may remember that our Sharing Our Abundance had a special collection for the Interparish Ministry holiday shopping for the holiday gift store for supporting low-income families in our area who need a way to give gifts to their families and loved ones. We had a wonderful time yesterday doing our elf shopping, and some of our young, this is us, at TJ Maxx yesterday, and we've got some of our young volunteers here to tell you just a quick sentence about it.
We went charity shopping and we went to TJ Maxx and we went straight to the toy section. We basically bought everything in the toy section.
That's pretty much exactly what we did.
We bought so much.
These kids worked hard to fill 5 shopping carts full of toys. We went later to a bookstore, a local bookstore, so that we could support a local business and spend some money there as well. And when we first started out, I had guessed that we would have between $200 and $300. My husband Luke guessed that we would have $500. Thanks to your generosity, and I also want to give a shout out to our Zoomers because we had a lot of people donate online last week. We had $1,400 to spend. Thank you, everyone.
How good is that? Our call to worship this morning is inspired by a reading from the Reverend Penny Hackett Evans, which appears in the book Lifting Our Voices, Readings from the Living Tradition. Each of us brings our own unique truth to this or any gathering. We bring the truth of our life. We bring our own story from our own experience, and sometimes we need to remember that. Whoops, there's more. My pages are messed up today. So we do not come here as empty vessels or blank slates, not as a statistic or a demographic, but as fully formed people, fully complete in this moment and in this time together. This is not to say that there is no such thing as truth or that truth is relative, simply to say that we each have different experiences of this world and have lived different lives. In this time we share today, then, let us honor the truth that one another brings. Let us celebrate the curiosity, acknowledge the anxiousness, be inspired by the ideas that others bring. For it is in this interchange of ideas, this sharing of our spirits, that community is created. Come, let us worship together. Please rise in body or spirit, both here in the sanctuary and out there on Zoom or on the internet in the future, and join voices as we sing our hymn of invocation, number 123, Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
And by this covenant we affirm that to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God. Thank you. Today we want to have a conversation, a congregational conversation, or maybe more accurately, several different conversations. So instead of me or some of our volunteers or staff talking to and at you this morning, I want us as much as possible to talk as a group, as a community. And so for the next hour or so, at various points during the service, we'll open up the floor for conversation. Maybe you have a question you'd like to pose to the group. Maybe you have an idea you'd like to propose. Maybe there's a topic you'd like us to explore. Earlier this week, I asked via email for some suggestions to get us started, and several people sent things in. I We'll begin in just a moment with one of those ideas, but let me start with a quick disclaimer. We won't be able to use everything everyone suggested, and for those folks who sent several suggestions, I think we're possibly going to be able to kind of condense those all into one or two topic areas. So we'll see how this goes, but we want to make sure to leave time and space for topics that can be generated here live in the sanctuary or on Zoom. And Zoomers, if you have something you'd like us to talk about, or if you want to get involved in a particular topic of conversation, just raise your virtual hand. That's the little yellow reaction icon on the bottom of your screen, and Kevin will let me know that you want to get involved in the conversation. So Kevin, if you could go ahead and put the Zoomers up on the wall for us to see here in the sanctuary, we'll try to include as many voices as possible. The first topic we got, and I think it's appropriate that we do this now before the kids leave, is the importance of children and youth in our congregation. People want to know what we should be doing for, and perhaps we could be doing together with our young people. We say that our children are our future, that we value them, that they're an integral part of this community, but how do we live into that? How do we make that aspiration a reality? So right now, Lacey is going to come forward, and she's going to invite all the kids and young people to come up here with her. You're not going to have to sing. I know it's where the choir usually sits, but we're not going to ask you to sing. You might actually get to talk, though, or Lacey might get to talk, too. But so Lacey, grab that mic. Have this mic. So, is this on? Okay. Wow, it's really on. So if there are comments that people want to make here in the sanctuary, I'm going to bring the microphone to you. But let's talk about, for a few minutes before we sing the kids out, actually we're going to do something really fun before we sing the kids out too, more fun perhaps. If you have thoughts about the place of young people and families and parents in our congregation, or something that's been on your mind about that, now is the time. Please, let's have a little conversation. Anybody want to go first? Somebody's got to break the ice. And parents, I know that you have thoughts on this, but you're not who raised your hand first. So, well, actually, the first hand was Steph's.
Hi, so Steph Tacey. So as a former religious exploration teacher for several years, I mean, they taught me so much, and just being with them brings such a great energy. So, I mean, I would love to see the kids more involved in services, if possible, but I also would like to know, what would the kids like to be involved in?
That's an opportunity to respond if you're ready.
Are there things that you already would like to do more of at church? Yes, what? What would you like to do more of? Play. We would like to play. That would be something cool. Everyone together.
The kids would like to play.
We should all play more.
Absolutely.
And they are great opportunities. They're great playmates.
I would like to run around the sanctuary playing tag.
Tag in the sanctuary. Anyone
She
game
actually
for
said
that?
run around the sanctuary. You might get a chance to
Yeah.
do that in about 3 or 4 minutes. Anybody? We got a Zoom? Oh, you got a comment. Okay, Finn.
Felix, come this way. Come this way.
Funny, there's no mic back here at the tech table.
So my name is Finn Palmer. I'm Kevin and Laura Palmer's son. And I have been here, they've been here for about 4 years. I was attending with them, and I did the religious education as like a 14-year-old. I'm now 18. And one of the things we did, for at least for the older kids with Bob Lamb, was we would go around to different denominations and attend a service or attend some form of religious activity with them to explore what it means to be a different religion. And I loved that, and I think that gave me a wonderful perspective on what it means to be UU and what it means to be part of a religious organization as a whole. And I would love to see that more with the kids, maybe even like ages 8 to 10 and 10 to, 15.
Thanks, Finn. And now Finn's mom.
So now that Finn is 18 and his siblings are 21, they don't really have a place here except to help with tech. And I'd like to explore what UU has for young adults, because I know through the pandemic and now even still, it's hard for our young people to move around in the world. And we could be a good support for them and help them make that transition from childhood to adulthood and be very supportive to them as a community, but we don't have a program for them now.
I saw some gestures of agreement in the sanctuary on that. Tracy Joe?
I'm Tracy Joe, and I appreciate everything that Lacey and all the teachers do for the kids. When we have intergenerational services, I would like to see, I would invite us into more of a space of truly having it be intergenerational rather than just calling it intergenerational and having the kids in the service. And it's really challenging. It's even challenging for me to sit still for an hour and 15 minutes. And I can see that it's hard to sit still for this 15 minutes or this 5 minutes. So having more activities, it doesn't have to be running around playing tag, but I really like that idea.
Multiple approvals of the idea of running around and playing tag. We got a Zoom. Laura Knight. Wait a minute, there's somebody above that? Who's that? Okay, well, I can't. So Laura Knight echoes this and says we need more notice to when events are. We were surprised about the potluck today. Well, that was in an email on Friday. But yeah, the communication is challenging. And that's, we'll bring that back up and whatever's above it too, okay? Because is it related to our children and youth and how we create an intergenerational community? Anything from over here? Or anything from Lacey?
Yeah, I mean, so I will just say about intergen services, like I'm a big, there's a lot of discussion about what it takes to really do intergenerational community. And I think we all, it's an exercise in compromise, right? No, we all don't get everything we need in every service. And so partly, I think, learning how to be a multi-generational community is about learning how we compromise with each other, and whose needs surface when and how. And so I think that's, and when we talked about having an intergenerational service here, there was a lot of energy for tag still, right? So like the idea of being in the sanctuary isn't one that the kids are averse to. They just want to be able to move in this space. Yep, see, thumbs up. We're getting thumbs up.
I'm not seeing people with hands up in either space, and I am hearing a lot of let's move and let's be boisterous.
Yeah.
So the next thing that's listed on your order of service is called a moment of loudness. Now, you've heard, you know what a moment of silence is, right? There's a lot of different contexts in which you can have a moment of silence. But last weekend, I was watching a football game where there was a moment of loudness, and it was really moving. And I thought, we could bring something like that here into our sanctuary and into your living rooms on Zoom. But I do want to lift up that this was created by the University of Utah football team and fans in response to a couple of tragedies and the loss of life among their football team. However, the idea of doing something opposite, instead of a moment of silence, a moment of loudness. And so we're going to encourage you to be super loud here in just a second. I'm going to count to 3 and take a little time to get your yayas out, right? Take a little stomp, scream, yell, clap, run around. If if you want to run around, just be rowdy. A moment of loudness. Are we about ready to get loud? Oh, someone got a face plant going back there. What's the worst that could happen? Okay, a moment of loudness. 1, 2, 3, go. So I was like, how am I going to get them to shut up? And they shut up on their own. What is that? So, okay, I guess you're done being loud. That's cool. But how did it feel? Got a little bit of breath going. We can do, like right now or next week? How about next week? Oh, okay. Oh, look, I made a promise about next week's service, thus impinging on your service, right? Sorry about that. But now that we have all this enthusiasm and we've quaffed a little cup of adrenaline, let's sing. Let's sing with maybe a little more enthusiasm than we usually do as we send the kids off to go do their thing. Then we'll see them at lunchtime. Touch the earth, reach the sky.
Touch the earth, reach the sky, walk on shores where spirits fly, over the ocean, over the land, our faith a quest to understand. Touch the earth, reach the sky, children ask the reason why. In our lives the answers show, and by our love they learn and grow.
So let's continue the conversation, but before we do, I have a brief but relevant passage to share with you from the author Marge Piercy. This reading appears in our hymnal. We must sit down and reason together. Perhaps we should sit in the dark. In the dark, we could utter our feelings. We could propose and describe and suggest. In the dark, we could not see who speaks, but only hear the words, and the words would say what they would say. No one would speak more than twice. No one would speak less than once. And thus, saying what we feel, what we believe, what is true for us, perhaps we could begin to listen. So let's give that a try today, my friends, not in the dark, but here in the light of community. I have a pre-suggested topic, and as I said, we'll make time at other points in the service for live topics to pop up. But more than one person submitted conversation topics related to the Reimagining Worship Retreat that was attended by nearly 24 HUC folks last spring. Here are some of their thoughts. So feel free to pick up on one of these or anything else related to Sunday services here at Heritage, taking the conversation wherever the Spirit moves. Topics that were mentioned by email this week were the reading of children's books during services. What kinds of worship themes would you like to see? Thoughts about or suggestions of guest speakers or musicians you'd like to see perform at Heritage. The idea of shared services with other non-UU churches, especially predominantly minority ones. And what would you like to see in terms of our music programming in the year and years ahead with the pending retirement of our beloved music director, Les Tacey? So those are some things that were mentioned in emails about worship, but truly anything about our Sunday services, now would be a time to just kind of open up a conversation about that as I move the microphone around and also look for people on Zoom.
I did attend the retreat. I was so impressed with some of the people who were there with all their wonderful ideas. And one of them has stuck with me. Well, actually, a couple have. One was sharing our service on Sunday with local school choirs. We know that their parents are going to come and support them, and maybe they might like to join our party. I don't know. The other thing is, we were talking about how to get new members here, and I was just wondering, is there a membership committee that could kind of get together and share some ideas how we might do that specifically?
So this being a conversation, people get to respond and react, right? If anybody wants to. I'm going to point out that, and answer your question, we haven't had a membership committee in several years, and that may be a whole nother conversation topic, which is volunteerism. I don't know where you're going to go, but go wherever you go.
Okay. One of the things Terry said, oh, I'm Allison Lang Hickey. One of the things Terry said from that retreat that we did, one of my favorite ideas about finding new members was to make a note of the people around here who have the diversity signs in their front yard and maybe do a door hanger or something, because those people would probably love a place like Heritage.
Thoughts on worship, or we're also shifting sort of toward growing? Did you still?
This is Laura Palmer. One of the thoughts that I had is that I find that sometimes we focus a lot on Christian themes and philosophy, and I know all that stuff. I'd like to explore different modalities, different philosophies, different ways of thinking about the divine that maybe I don't know much about.
Hi, you want to do that one first? Okay. I'm Kay Inskeep, and I was at the worship reimagining, and one of the things that came out of it was the gang of us. We've changed it. It was the library gang because we went to the library to talk, and it's evolved from there. But it was a group of about 5 or 6 of us who thought it might be a great way to help Reverend Bill and Lacey have help as a worship associates, as a gang. We put together some kind of different. We've explored joy, you know, where we did the balloon thing, and there's been different things. Some of it has gone over well, some of it hasn't. But I would encourage another group. You can't be the gang of us, but you could be the gang of something else, and come together and offer to do 1 or 2 services a year, and it would be great fun.
Yes, and thanks to the gang of us, trademark. I'm just going to read some of these things that are going on in the chat so far. So there's some conversation about accessing the calendar online, which I think, I know that Martha, our church administrator, is here today, so those might be some ideas that can be implemented there. The potluck is on the 2nd Sunday of the month. There's another comment about what do various world religions believe, kind of service, I assume, or theme for a Sunday. It says probably not a main Sunday thing, though, so maybe a world religions kind of adult education class. Haven't done that in a while. That's from the Abdallahs. Jamie Castle says there should be variety in what service looks like. Introverts and folks who are neurodivergent, a loud, boisterous, active service sounds not good. Some folks want to unplug, sit still, and take in the service. Maybe if we keep a variety and post ahead of time the level of activity like a scale system. That's an interesting thought. I do want to make sure everybody knows about the Vespers services, which is at the last Tuesday or Wednesday, middle of the week, fourth Wednesday of the month. So those are quiet, contemplative services on a Wednesday evening here in the sanctuary. The Abdallahs are showing appreciations. They do like the children's books during the service, and Jamie's comment regarding activity. Are we going anywhere right now, or are we moving on and there will be other segments where we can talk about things? Further thoughts? Bob.
And just kind of piggybacking on what Laura was talking about different faith traditions. I know we always pay homage to them and we touch on them. You know, we do Diwali services and stuff like that. But I would like to hear from people well-versed in various faith traditions that would come here and maybe speak or do something more in depth from like the Hindu temple or the Buddhist temples or some of those different traditions. And you know what I mean? It's like, it would be nice to delve into that a bit more. It's part of our search for truth and meaning.
Yes, so guest speakers from other faith traditions to sort of share with us about those. We're shifting mics now to the pulpit. And it's time in our service for the outreach offering. So I'll call Aaron Walzewski forward to tell us about Found House.
Good morning again. Today we're supporting Found House as part of our Sharing Our Abundance outreach. Many of you may know Found House by its old name, which is Interfaith Hospitality Network. Just this week, my parents told me, oh, we're trying to donate again to IHN, but we can't find them. We think they went away. And I said, they have a new name. It's Found House. So we've talked about them before, and we generally have a tradition here at Heritage of supporting them at least once a quarter because of their work supporting families who are experiencing homelessness in Cincinnati. Many of you can probably guess that the holidays are an especially difficult time for people who are experiencing homelessness. So organizations like Found House that can provide a little bit of a ray of hope is one way that we can help them have a better holiday experience through emergency housing services and housing support for people who need it the most. Thank you for your generosity. What beautiful music. Thank you. If you're on Zoom, there should be a link to donate to Found House in the chat. And if you're watching this in the future, the online donation link for Found House will be on our website for this week, or you can find them at foundhouse.org. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Eli, for playing for us there. Thank you very much. Don't know where I'm at now, because everything's changed. So I just got to find that reading. The following poem is titled Dancing in the Wind by David Bumball. Except for a few stubborn holdouts, the tree outside my window is bare of leaves. The wind this chilly morning worries those few remaining leaves, pulling them this way and twisting them that way, tugging at them until one by one, exhausted by the ceaseless effort to hang on, they go dancing in the wind. As they waltz past my window now, the stubbornness has left them, and they are finally free. What is it about living things that we expend so much energy resisting the inevitable, hanging on to what is already gone, hoping to sustain a season into times that are unreasonable, clinging to old habits despite the pain and discomfort? Why are we so afraid to dance in the wind? And that, my friends, is our next conversation topic. Why are we so afraid to dance in the wind, and what would it mean if we could dance in the wind? Does anybody want to pick up on that? Tracy Joe, I'm coming.
I changed places in the sanctuary. I'm Tracy Joe. Why are we afraid to dance in the wind? For me personally, I think it's a lot about body image. And many of us have a lot of shame around bodies and how do I look and is my hair okay? But how will, are my bat wings going to move too much if I dance in the wind? Or it's you know, a lot of those things. I love to dance, and I would invite more movement. It doesn't have to be dance, but watching the kids run around, that was so fun. And I ran a little bit too.
Thanks. So what are people going to think of me, right?
Robin Wickett. In my advancing 70s, I feel like I am dancing in the wind, and it's blowing pretty fast these days. The days are just going by like this. And I just feel busy, and I feel like I'm accomplishing things, and yeah, go wind, go. Maybe part of our anxiety is that we live in tornado country, and the wind can get to be a little bit too much, so, you know, we got to balance our lives.
I like that metaphor. Other folks? You'll let us know if anything's happening on Zoom, right? Okay. Laura.
As I listen to you read that, I wonder if some of the discomfort for folks is metaphorically around losing control, right? Because once you step out of your comfort zone, maybe then the fear is that you'll be too exuberant and draw judgment from that end as well. You can't stop being out in the wind.
I'm learning to pirouette here, I think. Is that the right word? Pivot, at least, anyway.
So one of the things when I listen to that, I think of it more in a metaphorical sense rather than literally going outside and dancing in the wind. So when you think about it metaphorically, how it meant to me at least was like my mother had said, when you dance in the wind, that's when the leaf has fallen, that's when you leave. And as someone entering a stage in my life in which I am leaving home and going into a new stage and living on my own and trying to find my way in the world, I guess dancing in the wind is leaving the tree, leaving where you have found sustenance and comfort and found your place to find a new place, to change with the season. And that's kind of the advancing time and just being able to cope with that and find your place dancing in the wind.
So letting go and going from transitions into different periods of life.
I'm Kathy Wade. And I don't know what we can do about this. It's an observation, though, that most churches, in fact, I think all churches, are set up like classrooms where the teacher's in front and we're all sitting in rows. The only people we see are sort of, side by side, and it's not real cool to turn around and look at everybody when you're in church like I'm doing now. So when I transitioned from teaching in a formal classroom to teaching at Women Writing for a Change, when everything was in a circle, things really changed. So that's just an observation.
I know that resonates with many people here. And Bob, perhaps most of all. Probably not, but.
I've thought about that many times. I would love to see our seeing be more concentric semicircles where you can kind of see each other, And we generally have whoever's speaking up there, so we do want to be able to see that way, but I don't know why we have to be in these linear rows all the time. It's nice to be able to see other people's faces. That's one of the things I loved about Zoom services. You can see everybody. Well, if they have their video on, which, a lot of times people don't, but, in other Zoom things I've been to, it's nice to be able to see faces.
So, okay, thanks for doing what you just did there, Kevin, because I was confused about where we were. So the Abdallahs are saying that regarding the wind discussion, part of it is location, not feeling it in the building, I don't know, but outside services where we had during COVID. So yeah, there is, it's interesting as we've reimagined worship, as we continue to reimagine worship, there are people who are sort of longing for having outdoor services. There are people who are longing for putting these chairs in a circle, which we do periodically do. And so both of those have occurred. Some people want them more. Some people are really uncomfortable with them. It's truly a balancing act for sure. Chris Burrows says, perhaps it would enrich us to have quality professional musicians in our services. Individual persons or groups could sponsor those. A little Bach feeds my spirit. Yeah, so different types of music, we had mentioned that earlier, and, which raises the question how to pay for it. So that's a creative idea, but there's a lot of things we want to do that are not free. And so as we move into the rest of the church year, we'll have conversations about priorities and how to pay for things. See here. So we had our moment of loudness. So now let's have our moment of silence. An opportunity to shift inward, to be together physically or virtually, but be silent together. A moment of silence for this beloved congregation. May we honor the spirit of life in each and in all. Amen. I don't know when, but at some point a while back, I started saying that. May we honor the spirit of life in each and in all. I think a service like today's is an effort to bring that into reality. It's an effort to get ideas. It's an effort to embody some ideas. You'll see that we've had a moment of loudness and a moment of silence now. And if you're looking on the order of service, which went away for a while, but was back by popular demand, this will be one of those moments where we don't follow the order of service. That happens. And so we're going to call up Bob Booth here in just a second. If you've been at Heritage more than 11 months, you probably know that we have one of our most beloved traditions is Bob Booth doing a solo on Christmas Eve, O Holy Night. And so to sort of pique your interest for Christmas Eve, 2 weeks from last night, we've asked Bob to sing a different Christmas song this year. It's titled Noel, Christmas Eve 1913. And please enjoy Bob Booth, accompanied here by Les Tacey, for Noel, Christmas Eve 1913.
Frosty Christmas Eve, and the stars were shining. I traveled forth alone, where westward falls the hill, and from many, many a village, in the darkness of the valley, distant music reached me, peals of bells are ringing. Then sped my thoughts to olden times, to that first of Christmases, when the shepherds who were watching heard music in the fields, and they sat there and they marveled, and they knew they could not tell whether it were angels or the bright stars a-singing. But to me heard afar, it was starry music, the singing of the angels, the comfort of our Lord, words of old that come a-traveling by the riches of the times. And I softly listened as I stood upon the hill, and I softly listened as I stood upon the hill.
Thank you, Bob, for that preview. And now for Candles of Community. At Heritage, each week we build community and we enrich our relationships with one another through this ritual. Because love is the spirit of our church, We devote time during each service to share joys and sorrows that we carry in our hearts. This Candles of Community ritual brings us closer together, and in the process, it multiplies our joys and it eases our sorrows. We have one request which was emailed, which I will share first, and then those here in person will be invited to share. And also those on Zoom can type your requests into the chat, and we'll read those following the in-person requests. First, we light one final candle for all the unspoken joys and sorrows that we all carry in our hearts today. Thank you.
So there's one final period of time here for folks to have a conversation. What would you like to talk about? What things would you like to lift up for this community? What questions would you like to pose? Let's see if we can make this very interactive. Is there anything people have that they want to bring up?
Hi, I'm Valerie. So when Bill sent that out and said, give him some thoughts, and I wanted to do that ahead of time, but, this is December, and it gets crazy in December, right? Or at least it does for me. So as I was thinking about it, then I realized last night that I was thinking about it like all week, just, okay, what could it be? And I know there's a burning question in my mind, and it has to do with COVID and the pandemic and all the things that happen with that. It also has to do a lot with a President Trump that we had before or in the midst of all that, and then just this what I've seen is people feeling like they have this license for lack of a better word, hatred, I guess. And it's so disturbing to me, just being this empathetic kind of person that I am and sensitive person, like just wondering what all of us can do about it. And so when you said, like, what's a topic, I know it's not to do, it does have to do with what everybody else is talking about. Sitting in a circle can help us to be closer together, or, doing more things for the children and for the young adults in our congregation, and getting more, community members to join our church. I guess and what I feel though is that, there's that saying out there, which I think is so true, that when you put the positive things out to the universe, that brings positive things back to us. And I guess I feel like I'm searching for a way to be able to take what is out there now that's so intense in its negativity and even some in its hatred, and just this license for people now to think they can run red lights and and go speed and do other different things. And it's beginning to touch all of us. And COVID, it started, not started, but when COVID happened, it also, that increased and brought a lot of that to people. So I just want to put out there that I feel like I want us as human beings now to try to just that whole kindness, only kindness matters, that Jules sings in her song. That just means a lot to me, and hopefully that we can get to that place more and more.
Thank you. So sort of a response to what she had said, one of the main tenets, at least I can't remember what it's exactly called, but we say love is the spirit of this church. And that rings true for me, that when we come into this sanctuary, we love and we spread love. And the mention of politics and President Trump and some of the comments made in the past during service are not loving. And that breaks my heart because everyone is deserving of love. And when you provide someone with love, you provide them with the chance to then take that and pay it forward. And so when we don't spread that love to everyone, when we exclude people or poke fun at them, whether it's blatantly or not, that's not loving, and it breaks my heart.
Anybody else?
Hi, my name is Jackie. I was just wondering what the process was for hiring a new music director, where that was at.
Thank you for asking that, Jackie. We did kind of hope this would come up today. Les has announced his retirement by the end of the church year, which is June. He'd like it to be sooner. We're trying to accommodate that, but he's very hard to replace, as you might imagine. So a search committee has been formed. A search committee has begun meeting. It's a 5-member search committee. Right now, working on a job description and sort of what to advertise for. And of course, we're about to hit the holidays, so that's kind of a pause. And then after the holidays, we will post the job opening. We will pray, everybody pray real hard that we get lots of interest and good applicants. The search committee will receive applications, we'll interview people. There will probably be some auditions. The person will need to work well with our choir director, Steve McCamley. There will be some choir involvement, but what Les does is very multifaceted. And so trying to find someone who can fit into that role. We hope to have somebody by spring, sometime in the spring, so that we can grant Les's wish and let him retire. And Les, as he has pointed out, is still going to be a member of the church and still be around. So we're not losing Les in that respect. Did that answer your question, or do you have other sort of follow-up questions? Okay. Aaron.
I'm Erin Carpenter. I just had an idea as you were speaking. I'm trying to think of like who are the people in the music industry that I know, and that would be like the music teacher at my daughter's school, her piano teacher, and that whole music studio. Like we could probably all start kind of spreading the word, because I'm sure that's a tight-knit community. So that's one thing that I can do to help.
Absolutely, and please, if you know of individuals or if you're connected to a community where we could advertise, like CCM or schools or so on, for this part-time role that involves mostly, well, I don't know mostly, involves in-person work on Thursday nights and Sunday mornings, let me know where we can send our job posting to. Thanks. So we conclude our service today, as we do most weeks, by singing together a closing hymn, and then joining hands, either literally or virtually, for our traditional heritage benediction. Please rise in body and or spirit as we sing "Break Not the Circle."
Break not the circle of enabling love, where people grow forgiven and forgiving. Break not the circle, make it wider still, till
join hands. Connected physically, connected virtually. Look around wherever you are. See the beauty in another's eye, in another's heart. May the Spirit of life, that each of us possesses, flow from one to the other. May it stay with us. And bring us peace and harmony. Until we meet again. Amen. If you're here in the sanctuary, let's go have a potluck. I saw that when I was singing the closing hymn. But not before.